Hey guys, so this is the RTX 30 and we're going to talk about this in the review. I purchased this last year when it launched, not last year, in 2020 when it launched, and it was the performance king at that time and also the value king. So there is the card, it's the FE version. I got it for MSRP and I think it was the best value card, and I think it's still the best value card with 4080 being way out of its price. And I think this does very well in 4K, and it's a very extremely powerful 2K graphic cards. You can play at ultra wide 2K even in the future with this graphic card. So before using my 4090, I was using this card itself for 4K gaming, and it could run most of the games. For example, God of War at 4K, max resolution, max settings, max resolution, no DLSS. It used to run at 6570. Cyberpunk was one of the game where it struggled kind of. I would only get, even with DLSS, around 40 FPS. Not even 40, I would say 30ish with max settings, right? Would have to tone settings down and do DLSS performance. Then it would go up to 60 FPS. But still, I think it's a great card, and I think it's way better value than the 4080. 4090 is a different story, so we'll talk about that later in this video. Introduction is done. Now we're going to talk about what this video will basically cover. This video will basically cover the benchmarks of some games that I find like are very intensive and define a GPU. So we will go in the ray tracing as well. I will primarily focus more on ray tracing because that's the future, I think. Like, and we'll focus mainly on 4K. We will also touch up a bit on 2K, but mostly on 4K. So I've selected 3 games that should be enough to tell the story of this game. There's no point in testing Valorant or games like that. All those games basically clock more than 300 FPS, right? Anyhow, so yeah, we'll just go over these benchmarks, and the main last part would be basically the conclusion and why I bought a 4090 when I still had a 3080. For fun, I'll just show you a few of the comparison pics between 4080 and 4090 and 3080. Basically the size. So this is the 3080 FE and this is the 4090 TUF. You can see the size difference. So very big card. Yeah, 3080 is basically a 320 watt card, and you can easily run it in a 750 watt card, 750 watt PSUC. So let's just, so my last recording did not work out, so I am recording it again. So this is control. We are at 4K, and render resolution is also 4K. Settings are all max except MSA, you don't require that at 4K. Ray tracing is all at high. So what I am getting right now is 40 FPS, right? So the game looks very beautiful. The reflections, you see the reflections and everything, they move and they are rendered at real time. Let me show you the reflection much better. If you go inside this room, you can see Jesse's character on that wall, right? So yeah, it's there as well. So yeah, that's that. But we are getting like 30-35 FPS, and game is not a lot playable. Like, I'm not enjoying this FPS. It's stuttery, if I have to say. Right now, if I go to display, just turn on NVIDIA DLSS at quality, so it internally renders at a 2K resolution, right? My FPS is now at like 65, 66, and this is lot playable. And I think the game actually looks kind of better because it uses much better NTLA, right? DLSS internally using that. And my FPS stays above 60 and it's quite playable, and the image quality is almost the same. I cannot discern it. See the reflections, they are there. Everything is rendered properly. It's a lot better right now, right? It's staying in almost at 60. I can turn down a few settings to make it more higher, but yeah, I think this can. And NVIDIA actually recommends at 4K playing at DLSS performance, so let's just do that. If I turn it down to DLSS performance, my FPS is almost touching 100 now, so it's high 90, and the game is very smooth. So my display is a 4K 240 Hz. Now, one thing some people might also want to know is that how it runs at 2K. I do not have a native 2K monitor, but what I'll just do is internally without DLSS render it at 2K. So that would give us the FPS that we might get, right? So yeah, we get like 78 FPS, and with DLSS quality, which internally renders at 1440, we were getting at 65 FPS. So DLSS does have a overhead for it, but I think the quality was way better. Now the image is slightly softer than I would like it to be, but it's still great because we are still rendering at 1440p, but it's a slightly more softer image. The FPS is definitely increased. Now, if you're at native 2K resolution, I would not want you to use DLSS, because DLSS at 2K renders the image at 960p, and even at DLSS quality for 2K resolution, right? But for 4K, even at DLSS performance, it renders at 1080p, which gives a much better quality, and FPS is great as well. So if we just go back, turn it up, turn on NVIDIA DLSS and turn it to DLSS performance, I'm getting 100 FPS. The image quality is great, right? So yeah, we are here in Cyberpunk trying to record this for the third time because it just won't work. We are at 4K Ultra, we're getting 16 FPS. This is because the 10 gig VRAM is less for this game. It requires like 11 point something GBs, so you require a 12 GB card. Let me just show you the settings. Everything is at high, ray tracing is at ultra. There's no DLSS, we are running at 4K. I just turn it to DLSS quality and let's see what happens. With DLSS quality, we are getting like 35-36 FPS, which is great. I think this is a console experience. All the peasant boys that use console would be happy to see this FPS. But yeah, 30 FPS is not a lot playable. It kind of is and kind of not, because you can turn on motion blur and slightly improve the feeling. But yeah, I do not use motion blur, so this is not really playable for me. With my 4090, I get like 65 FPS in the same alleyway. And then now let's just do one thing, turn it to performance. Now I'm getting like 46 FPS, so this is somewhat playable. But yeah, with motion blur you should be able to play this game at this resolution and these settings. With performance, the game actually looks great. With quality, it slightly looks better, but not by a lot. So yeah, it's still playable. I think you can play this game at 45 FPS even with the mouse and keyboard. So yeah, let's do one thing. Let's just turn it to 2K and let's see what happens. 2K, I apply it, I go to the graphics setting, I turn off this. Yeah, I'm getting like 38 FPS. So I was with DLSS quality, which internally renders at 2K itself, I was almost getting the same FPS. So I think with 4K you can just turn it to 2K and with DLSS quality and then play. So for anybody who's trying to play game at 2K, this is how you would feel. Now DLSS at 2K is a different game, because DLSS quality renders at like 960p, DLSS performance at 4K renders at 1080p. So DLSS performance is better than DLSS quality. DLSS performance at 4K is better than DLSS quality at 2K, right? So let's just see how my DLSS is. We're like at 60 FPS. Game feels a lot better. The difference in quality is there, right? So it does not feel that crisp anymore, but yeah, I think the FPS is there. So you can play this game at 2K with DLSS set to quality, or you can just play it at DLSS performance with 4K. So we turn it to performance, we bump up the resolution back, and now the FPS is lower, I think 5-10 FPS, but the game is very crisp. Like this feels much better on my 4K display. So I have a 4K 240Hz monitor, but yeah, the 2K does not look that good. So this looks great. Now the image quality is much better. I would rather play it like this than playing at 2K resolution, right? So let me just stop the. Okay, now what we are going to do is sort of turn off ray tracing and see what happens, right? Some of the people do not actually like ray tracing, and see how 3080 now performs, right? So just turn it off, we go back. Now we are getting 67-65 FPS. Earlier we were getting 32-35 FPS. So if we went in here, right, I was here getting 30 FPS. Now it's at 70. So we have doubled the FPS, but you can see there is no reflection in this mirror nor here. So there's a definite image quality difference, but if you want to play at 4K, you know, just enjoy 4K for its high fidelity. You can turn off ray tracing, and 3080 handles this very well. So yeah, one thing you can also do is to increase its performance is just go ahead and turn on DLSS at quality. Now you are getting like 99 FPS. With DLSS quality and full ray tracing, you are getting like 65 FPS, and DLSS performance was getting you 99. The image is actually much cleaner. So one thing with ray tracing is that it sort of blurs down images because rays sometimes are not actually rendered at 4K, even though you say that it's 4K. And with diffuse lighting, it sort of adds a realism, and it's you know, in a slight vary. So this is a very good way to play this game at 96 97 FPS. Now if you just have a 3080, right? Okay, so we can end this here. I will talk about if you can if you don't want to upgrade, what you can do. So this is at without ray tracing, right? So this is a great performance with even with DLSS quality. You do not need more than 100 FPS in this game, right? It runs very smooth. Now what we are going to do is basically try this game without ray tracing, because this looks good without ray tracing as well, right? And see what happens. So ray tracing is off, we apply this, we turn off DLSS. Yeah, so I'm getting like 40 FPS, 35, 40 FPS. The game looks crisp because with ray tracing you do get some noise, but you can see that there was a lot of reflection over here which is now gone. The game looks a little bland without ray tracing, but FPS is there. So if I just turn on DLSS quality at 4K without ray tracing, I'm getting like 45 FPS. So jump of 50%, and the game actually looks much better due to DLSS sharpening and internal anti-aliasing itself, right? So this is very playable. If you want to go beyond 60 FPS, just go to DLSS performance and this should work. Yeah, now we are getting like 69 FPS. The good thing about 3080 is like you do not need a very high powerful CPU. So I have a 5800X which is still powerful, but with my 4090, oh fuck you bitch. Oh no, shit. With my 4090 I am CPU bottleneck heavy in this game. So the game, even with DLSS quality, my GPU usage is at max 80%, right? So yeah, that's that. Okay, I think we are done with Cyberpunk. Let's move on. So now we are in God of War, the 2018 version. This is one of my favorite game right now. Looks very good. I think with ray tracing this would have looked much better. So let's just see how it performs, right? Let me just turn off ray tracing. Sorry, not ray tracing, DLSS. So now we are at 4K and we are rendering at 4K as well. So, and let me just show you the settings. Graphics, everything as ultra. Reflections are even at ultra plus. Okay, let's just turn to ultra. So that, yeah, we just turn it to ultra preset so that it's reformed. So we're getting like 75, 60 FPS. This is very playable. You do not require much more FPS in this game, right? So this is very playable. My GPU is taking like 365 watts, which my 4090 does not take in this game. So yeah, I'm getting 80 FPS. That's quite a huge, quite high FPS. You do not require more than this. Now what we are going to kind of do is turn on DLSS and see what happens. So let's just go to. So in this particular game, you have your 3080 is way more capable to handle it at 4K, right? You do not require any other graphic card. So yeah, we're rendering at DLSS quality, and I'm getting like 100 FPS. So this is quite smooth, quite smooth. Without DLSS quality, also this was very much smooth. But yeah, now this is way smooth. So, and there's no visual loss in visual quality, right? There's no loss. So what we can also do to optimize this is a bit, let me show you something. Go to display, just go to off, go to graphics and set to the quality how it comes with the PS4 PS PlayStation, right? So now we are getting like 95 FPS. In this same setting with 4K we're getting like 60-70 FPS. So you the game still looks great, so you can play to optimize for performance. You can play this game like this at with 3080 now. This is a 4K 240 Hz monitor right now at 120 Hz max refresh rate. So this is sort of maxing my display out. If I go to settings, display, quality, my FPS most likely will go very high. Yeah, it's 135 FPS even at 4K, right? So this is very, this game is not, this game is very beautiful and 3080 handles it very gracefully. Now if you are playing it at 2K monitor, let me just bump it up to ultra, go to display, turn off this. Let's see if it lets me. It does not. Okay, it does let me change it to 2K. Now with 2K native, I'm getting 120 FPS. So you're basically maxing out most of your displays, right? Most of the displays are at around 144 FPS. So this basically maxes out everything. Now if you go to display and you turn on not why do I keep on saying it? Just turn on DLSS to quality at 2K native. What happens? You're getting like 150 FPS. So if your monitor is 144 FPS, you are maxing it out. So yeah, I think for 2K 3080 is more than enough, and that's the whole story of 3080. If you have a 2K monitor, you do not need any higher GPU, but it's a capable 4K card as well. So let me just do one thing, go to settings, go to graphics and go to the original settings. Now see the FPS. You are at 200 plus FPS. You would need an ultra fast monitor to experience this, and I do not see any difference in graphics side. Ultra, I would have to nitpick to see a difference, but yeah, it sort of looks the same. Yeah, reflections and this light sort of feels a bit fake in comparison, but there's not much difference right now. Yeah, so my FPS just dropped to 150 from 200 plus. So yeah, that's that. Hey guys, so all the benchmarks are done. Now we're going to talk about the conclusion and why I basically purchased the 4090. I'll just brief you through the benchmarks a bit. Please do watch the gameplay for each of the games because I have tested a lot of different settings in a lot of detail. So that would be, it sort of would be difficult to go through all of these together, but I'll just give you a gist of it. For me, 3080 is an excellent 2K card, excellent 2K or ultra wide card. It is almost a 4K high refresh card, but somewhere in some games it stutters, right? For example, if you are playing 4K natively even in Control, which is a 2019 game, I guess. So with ray tracing, you just get 30 to 35 FPS. With DLSS quality, it bumps to 65, and then DLSS performance goes to 90. Now with 4K resolution, the good thing is that DLSS performance also looks great, so you can play with DLSS performance. So 90 FPS in a game like Control is very smooth. If you turn off ray tracing, you get like 60 to 65 FPS even at 4K, right? So that's very high. And if you just turn on DLSS quality at 4K without ray tracing, you get to 100. So 100 is a very high refresh rate. So most of the 4K displays are like 144 Hz, so you can almost max them out, right? And DP 1.4 only does 4K 120. So without DSC, you are actually maxing out your display, right? So that's that. And in the gameplay of Control, I have tested out optimized settings as well, so that bumps it by like 15-20 FPS. So that's a great way to play with 3080 as well for high refresh gaming. Cyberpunk is one of the games that punishes this card, especially the 10 GB version, because this FPS is quite low. I think you can even get to 20-25 FPS if you have like 12 GB VRAM version, because what happens is like this game requires 11.5 GB and this card only has 10 GB, so you are limited by your VRAM. But yeah, it still struggles, right? Even with DLSS quality and Cyberpunk at ultra settings and ultra ray tracing, you're just getting 30 FPS at 4K. So you are internally rendering at 2K but still getting 30 FPS. With non-ray tracing also, there's not much improvement in performance. It's like 30 FPS, and with DLSS quality you go to 50 FPS. I think I forgot the number for this one. Yeah, with DLSS performance I think I was getting like 50 FPS, and I did not test this out because more than 50-60 in Cyberpunk is enough. So I think I have tested this out in the video. Please do give a watch. So in the section of Cyberpunk you will see that. Now God of War is a great game. I love this game. So with max settings at 4K native, it's getting like 65 to 75 FPS, which is more than enough for that game. If you have to play this at a higher refresh rate, you can turn the settings to PlayStation Original. I have tested that out in the gameplay section for God of War. Watch it in detail. Now you can see that in 2K, even in Cyberpunk with ray tracing at DLSS quality, you are getting a 60 FPS, almost a 60 FPS refresh experience. God of War goes to like 100. It's now reaching your monitor's max refresh rate, right? So with control it's like 70 FPS, and with DLSS quality it goes to 100. Now the good thing about 4K is that 4K DLSS performance equals 1080p rendering, 2K DLSS quality equals to 960p render. So you have an advantage in terms of visual quality at playing 4K DLSS performance versus at playing 2K DLSS quality, right? So I think if you have a 4K monitor, do not turn it down to 2K and then play at DLSS quality to match the FPS. Just play it at 4K and DLSS performance so that the image quality is also there. So yeah, just covering the conclusion, it's an excellent 2K card. It's an almost high refresh 4K card. It has great value, but I think if you are looking to buy a new one right now, just look for 12 GB version or the 3080 Ti/3090. Second hand market is right now very cool. So if you are getting a 438, you will get a 3080 for like 45,000 Indian rupees and 3090 for like 55,000. So I think that 10,000 is a good investment to buy a 3090 in itself. You will get like 10-15% more FPS in every of the game, and you will not be bottlenecked by VRAM for future games as well. So especially if you are at 4K, just aim to buy either of these instead of going for the 3080. But if you are getting a 3080 a cheap deal, or that's your max budget, just go ahead with that. And now coming to the point, if this card is so good and I already had it, why did I go for a 4090? The thing is that I just upgraded a 2x performance jump. So last time I jumped from 2070 Super to 3080, that was a 2x performance gain. Now 3080 to 4090 is almost like a 2.2x gain, I would say. Yeah, I would say 2.1x or 2.2x gain. So that's why 4090 is a great card for me. Obviously it's overpriced a bit, I feel like, but yeah, it's the flagship card, right? So I personally have a 4K 240Hz monitor, so 4090 helps me to maximize, all in some of the games I kind of reach 200 plus FPS. For example, God of War with 4K and DLSS quality, I get like 220 FPS. So that's good, and it's sort of a way of future proofing, right? And I think the encoding part of this is very high. So final point is that buy a 3080 if you have the budget, or if you are finding a good deal, but otherwise go for a 3080 Ti or 3090. Yeah, so that's that. Thank you.